Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the truth. The kind most people are too afraid to say out loud. It hurts. When someone you gave your heart to chooses someone else, it doesn't just bruise your pride. It cracks something deeper. Something sacred. It shakes your sense of self. It makes you question everything. Were you not enough? Were you too much? Was every smile, every touch, every late night promise just a placeholder until someone better came along? You replay conversations in your head. You scan for signs. You wonder if there was something you could have done differently. Maybe if you had been quieter or louder, more patient, less emotional. Maybe if you hadn't been so open, so trusting, so in love. But the truth is, right now, before we analyze, before we heal, before we even begin to rebuild, what you need most is to sit with the ache, to feel the sting, to cry without apology. To scream into your pillow if you need to, because what you're going through is real. This is not just about a breakup. This is about loss. The loss of a future you imagined, the loss of safety, the loss of a version of yourself that believed love could conquer all. Don't rush to be strong. Don't let anyone tell you to move on before your heart is ready. Grief doesn't obey a timeline. This is your experience, and you have every right to feel shattered. Let it hurt. Let it burn, let it hollow you out if it must, because healing doesn't begin by pretending everything is fine. Healing begins when you honor the pain, when you admit that something sacred to you was lost, and when you give yourself permission to feel all of it, without shame. Let's talk about something that happens far too often after a heartbreak, especially when someone leaves you for another person. You start carrying weight that was never meant for you. You internalize the rejection. You start to dissect yourself like a broken puzzle, thinking, what did I do wrong? What was I missing? What did she have that I didn't? And suddenly, you're rewriting the whole relationship from a place of self-doubt. You remember every argument, every insecurity, every moment you weren't at your best, and you start building a story where you were the problem. You start blaming yourself for someone else's decision to walk away. But here's a truth you need to hear, even if your heart isn't ready to fully believe it yet. Someone leaving you for someone else says far more about them than it ever will about you. People don't always leave because you lack something. Sometimes they leave because they were lacking something themselves. Maturity, honesty, clarity, or the capacity to love you in the way you deserve. Sometimes they're chasing excitement or escape or the illusion of something new. And sometimes, yes, they make selfish choices without thinking about the wreckage they leave behind. But none of that is a reflection of your worth. Don't shrink under the weight of someone else's inability to stay. Don't mold yourself into guilt. Don't over-apologize for simply being human in a relationship that required two whole people. One person does not break a relationship alone. It's never that simple. And in many cases, betrayal isn't about your failure, it's about their cowardice. Blame is heavy, and when it's misdirected inward, it becomes toxic. It poisons your self-esteem. It robs you of peace, and worse, it convinces you that you must fix something in yourself that was never broken to begin with. So no, you don't have to wear shame like a badge. You don't have to carry fault in your heart just because someone else walked away. It's not your job to explain their actions, and it's not your burden to bear their choices. You are allowed to say, I wasn't perfect, but I loved honestly. I tried my best, and that should have been enough. Their leaving is not a mirror of my value, because it never was. Rejection has a way of convincing us that we're worthless. It's not just about someone saying no to you. It's not just about someone choosing to walk away. It's about how easily we let that no define everything we believe about ourselves. Suddenly, you're not just someone who was left. You start to believe you're someone who deserved to be left. You start questioning your beauty, your intelligence, your personality, your presence. You start to believe that if you were truly lovable, truly special, truly enough, they would have stayed. But let me offer you a radical truth, one that might feel hard to accept at first. Being rejected does not mean you are unworthy. It means the person who left was not equipped to value you the way you deserve to be valued. Rejection often speaks to compatibility, not worth, to timing, not identity, to someone's vision of life that no longer included you, not because you weren't worthy of love, but because they didn't recognize the depth of love they had right in front of them. Think about it. People reject diamonds every day because they don't know how to see their brilliance. People pass up art because they don't understand its depth. People walk away from gardens because they're too impatient to wait for things to bloom. Their inability to stay does not mean you were lacking. Sometimes people leave not because of what you are, but because of what they are not ready to be. Let that sink in. You are not defined by someone's failure to see your light. You are not defined by someone choosing someone else. And you certainly are not defined by a love that couldn't carry its weight through the storms. You are still valuable, still beautiful, still powerful, still whole. Don't let one rejection silence your inner voice. Don't let it erase the truth of your worth that existed long before they ever walked into your life, and that still exists long after they've gone. You are not any less just because they couldn't see more. One of the hardest parts about being left, especially when someone leaves you for someone else, is the haunting silence that follows, the questions that echo in your mind at night, the desperate need to understand why. Why did they leave? When did it start? Was it always going to end like this? Did they ever really love you? You find yourself stuck in a loop, searching for clues, obsessing over conversations, trying to read between the lines of memories. You want answers. You want explanations. You want something, anything, that will make the pain make sense, because heartbreak without closure feels like reading a book that ends mid-sentence. The story just stops, and you're left holding all the pages, not knowing how to move forward when the narrative feels incomplete. But here's something you may not want to hear, but need to. You may never get the closure you're looking for. And you have to find a way to be okay with that. Some people leave without giving you peace because they were never brave enough to face what they did. Some people don't offer you the full truth because even they don't fully understand themselves. And others, well, some don't offer closure because they've already closed the door in their mind long before you ever saw it coming. But here's the truth. Closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you. It comes the moment you stop waiting for a conversation that may never happen. It comes when you stop needing validation for your pain. It comes when you decide that the lack of an explanation is its own explanation. You don't need every detail to begin healing. You don't need their words to release their memory. Sometimes silence is the only answer you'll get. And learning to accept that silence is where your peace begins. Let go of the hope that one day they'll come back with an apology or an admission. Let go of the fantasy that they'll suddenly make everything clear. Let go of the idea that they hold the final word in a story that is, and always has been, yours. They may have left, they may have moved on, they may have closed their chapter without you, but you're still holding the pen. You still get to write the rest. It's almost automatic, isn't it? The moment someone leaves you for someone else, your mind becomes a battlefield of comparison. You start scrolling, stalking, searching, comparing every inch of yourself to the person they chose. Their face, their body, their style, their life, their smile. You examine yourself in the mirror with a more critical eye, asking, what do they have that I don't? What made them more choosable than me? And in that moment, you hand over your power. You shrink yourself down to a competition you never agreed to enter. You make someone else's existence a measure of your value. But comparison is a cruel liar. It doesn't tell you the full story. It only tells you what your wounded heart wants to believe. It filters the truth through pain and insecurity until it feels like you're not enough, even when that couldn't be further from reality. Because here's what comparison never shows you. It doesn't show you the depth of your soul. It doesn't show your loyalty, your laughter, your resilience. It doesn't show how you loved with everything you had, even when it hurt. It doesn't show your quiet strength, your kind heart, or the 1,000 ways you showed up when it would have been easier to walk away. It only shows the surface, the highlight reel, the illusion. Let me remind you of something important. You are incomparable. Not because you are better or worse than anyone else, but because you are completely unique. Your worth cannot be measured side by side with anyone else's. You are not more valuable because you're prettier or smarter or cooler, and you're not less valuable if you're not. You are not replaceable just because someone walked away, and you are not less lovable because someone else was chosen. Sometimes people don't choose better, they just choose different, and sometimes they choose recklessly. That's not your fault, and it's not your burden to carry. Stop torturing yourself with comparisons that serve no purpose but to tear you down. You are not here to compete. You are here to be fully, authentically. Freely, you are not a lesser version of anyone else. You are the only version of you, and that is more than enough. When someone you gave your heart to chooses someone else, it's easy to forget how to love yourself. Their rejection can echo so loudly in your mind that it drowns out your own inner voice. The one that used to say, I'm worthy, I'm beautiful, I matter. But now it feels like you're standing in the ruins of your own confidence, unsure of where to start, unsure if you even deserve to start again. So let me remind you, this is where the healing begins. Not with revenge, not with rebound, but with returning to yourself. It's time to turn inward, to take all the energy you were pouring into trying to be chosen and redirect it back to the one person who has needed your love most all along, you. This doesn't mean pretending to be okay. It doesn't mean forcing toxic positivity or acting like you don't care. It means holding space for your sadness while still choosing to care for your soul. It means waking up each morning and saying, even if they didn't love me the way I needed, I will. Start small, make your own breakfast with intention, buy yourself the flowers, go for a walk without your phone, write down the thoughts that scare you, dance in your kitchen with no one watching, wear what makes you feel powerful. Talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love, with patience, with grace, with kindness, and don't wait until you're fully healed to begin. Healing doesn't come all at once. It arrives in pieces, in deep breaths, in quiet victories, in the moments you choose yourself even when it would be easier to fall apart. Refocusing on self. Love is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you've always been underneath the pain. It's about peeling off the layers of doubt, shame, and insecurity that someone else's actions tried to bury you under. It's about rebuilding your foundation, not for anyone else to admire, but for you to stand tall on. You don't need anyone to validate your worth before you start living like you're enough, because you are, you always were, even when they couldn't see it, even when you forgot it yourself. Self-love isn't selfish. It's survival, it's how you reclaim your story, it's how you remind the world, and yourself, that no one gets to take away your light. Not even the one who walked away. There comes a moment, after the tears have soaked the pillow, after the silence has grown heavier than words, when you look at yourself in the mirror and realize, this pain does not get to define me. Yes, he left, yes, he chose someone else, and yes, it broke something inside you, but what he didn't take, what he can't take, is your power, because the truth is, the moment someone walks away, you are left with a choice. You can stay stuck in the narrative of loss, or you can step into a new narrative, one where you are the author, not the abandoned. It may not feel like it now, but within this heartbreak lies the raw material for transformation, not revenge, not performance, but real, grounded power. The kind that comes not from pretending you're okay, but from rising slowly, daily, honestly. Reclaiming your power doesn't happen all at once. It happens in the smallest decisions. It happens when you unfollow what hurts, when you stop rereading the old messages, when you stop blaming yourself for someone else's cowardice, when you begin to set boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect the heart that's still beating inside you. It happens when you wake up and say, I may not be over it yet, but I'm not under it anymore either, because power isn't loud. It's not always visible. Sometimes power is quiet and trembling. It's the strength to sit with your grief without letting it consume you. It's the courage to believe there is more ahead of you than what's been lost behind you. Reclaiming your power also means redefining what this experience says about you. It does not say you're unwanted. It does not say you're not good enough. It does not say you were second best. What it says is this: you loved deeply, you showed up, you were willing, you gave your heart without holding back. That's not weakness. That's courage, that's integrity, that's real love, and that kind of love, that kind of truth, can't be erased just because someone failed to recognize it. Your power lives in your ability to get back up, not with a hardened heart, but with one that still chooses to believe in your worth. That still chooses to grow, that still chooses to love yourself through it all, because at the end of the day they may have walked away, but you're still standing. And that alone is a powerful beginning. When someone betrays your trust, when they replace you, when they choose someone else without warning or accountability, anger feels like the most natural response. And why wouldn't it? They shattered something sacred. They treated your heart like it was disposable. They walked away from something you never imagined giving up on. So yes, you're angry, rightfully so. And let's be clear, anger isn't wrong. It's human, it's honest, it's part of the grieving. It protects your dignity in moments when sadness threatens to drown you. But here's the thing about anger. If you're not careful, it grows roots. It digs itself into your spirit and poisons everything it touches. What starts as defense slowly turns into bitterness, and bitterness, though it may feel strong, is just pain dressed in armor. You start speaking not from healing, but from hate. You speak to tear them down instead of lifting yourself up. You become so focused on proving your worth to them, or to anyone watching, that you forget your healing isn't a performance, it's a process. But here's your power move: choose grace, not for them, not to excuse what they did, not to let them off the hook, but for you to protect your peace, to show yourself and the world that even with a broken heart, you can rise with integrity. Grace doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean suppressing your truth. It means choosing your words with intention. It means refusing to let someone else's betrayal make you bitter. It means speaking about your pain without letting it become your identity. It's saying, yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was disappointed. Yes, I deserved better. But it's also saying, I won't let what they did turn me into someone I'm not. Because that's the trap. Bitterness makes you carry the burden of their betrayal long after they're gone. It keeps you locked in the past. It makes you relive the wound again and again, like picking at a scar that's trying to heal. Grace is not weakness. Grace is restraint. It's wisdom. It's knowing that the way you speak, even in heartbreak, shapes the person you're becoming. So speak with power, speak your truth, but don't let them take your softness. Don't let them take your peace, and never let them turn your heart to stone. You can be broken and still be kind. You can be angry and still be respectful. You can be wounded and still walk away with your head held high. Because grace isn't about how they see you. It's about how you choose to see yourself. In the moments after someone walks away, especially for someone else, it's easy to believe that you've been destroyed. Shattered, ruined, like everything you were building together collapsed in an instant, leaving behind only rubble. Like the version of yourself that existed before the heartbreak is now gone, lost forever in the wreckage of a relationship that was supposed to last. But what if I told you that he didn't break you, that he didn't have that kind of power? What if I told you that what feels like an ending might actually be a rerouting, a divine detour towards something better, stronger, more aligned with who you're becoming? Because sometimes the universe will use heartbreak as a compass. Sometimes the very person who walked away was the barrier standing between you and the life you were truly meant to live. Sometimes loss is not the removal of love, but the removal of a limit. It may not feel like it right now. It may still ache in places you didn't know existed. But someday you'll look back and realize that what you thought broke you actually built you, built your backbone, built your standards, built your capacity to know the difference between what is real and what is convenient. You'll see that his leaving didn't take your worth with him. It just cleared space for you to remember it. Because when someone chooses someone else over you, it's easy to internalize it as a personal failure. But in truth, it might have been a divine protection, a closed door you kept knocking on, not realizing what waited on the other side of your healing was far more beautiful than what you were trying to force. Think about how many parts of yourself you neglected to keep that relationship alive. Think about the moments you dimmed your light to avoid being too much. Think about the dreams you postponed, the needs you silenced, the self you slowly abandoned just to hold on to someone who was already slipping away. That's not love, that's survival. And now that he's gone, you have an invitation to no longer survive, but to thrive. He didn't break you, he redirected you away from a path that would have continued to ask you to shrink, away from someone who would never have grown with you, away from a future that wasn't meant to hold your full truth. Painful, absolutely, unfair, without question, but final, no, not even close. This is not where your story ends. This is simply where the story shifts, where the plot thickens, where the character transforms, where the real magic begins to unfold. The word forgiveness feels heavy when your heart is still bleeding. How can you forgive someone who hurt you so deeply? How can you offer grace to someone who walked away without explanation, without apology, without even looking back? How do you begin to forgive someone who replaced you like you were nothing but a moment, a phase they outgrew? Let's be clear, forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It doesn't mean excusing what they did. It doesn't mean pretending the pain wasn't real, and it certainly doesn't mean welcoming them back into your life with open arms. No, forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Because the longer you carry resentment, the longer they still hold a piece of your peace. Every time you replay what they did, every time you speak their name with venom, every time you let the betrayal poison your thoughts, you are still tethered to them. You deserve better than that. You deserve to be free. Free from the weight of the past, free from the bitterness that hardens your heart, free from the need for revenge, for validation, for answers that may never come. Forgiveness is how you cut that cord. It's how you say, you may have hurt me, but you don't get to own me, not now, not anymore. It's how you reclaim your emotional energy. It's how you stop letting their absence control your presence. It's how you choose healing over hatred. And make no mistake, forgiveness is a process. Some days you'll feel at peace. Other days you'll feel the anger flare back up. That's okay. Forgiveness isn't a one-time event. It's a daily decision to choose yourself over the story of what they did to you. It's choosing not to let your heart be a home for their betrayal. It's choosing softness in a world that tried to harden you. It's choosing to protect your future from the shadows of your past. Forgiveness doesn't require a conversation with them. It doesn't require mutual understanding. It only requires your willingness to let go for your own sake, so that you can finally breathe without the weight of what they did pressing on your chest. It's how you rise. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Let's be honest. When someone leaves you, especially for someone else, the first instinct isn't always healing. It's proof. You want to show them what they lost. You want them to regret it. You want them to feel the pain they caused. You want to be so successful, so beautiful, so untouchable that they look back and think, why did I ever let that go? And that's human. That's ego. That's the ache of betrayal trying to find justice. But here's the truth. Revenge might satisfy your pride, but it will never heal your soul. Because revenge keeps you tied to the very thing you're trying to rise above. It keeps your heart pointed in the wrong direction, backward. The best revenge isn't a new relationship. It isn't a filtered photo or a passive-aggressive post. It isn't a glow-up driven by spite. The best revenge is peace. It's no longer needing them to see your worth because you see it for yourself. It's waking up in the morning without the urge to check if they noticed your absence. It's choosing joy that isn't performative, happiness that isn't curated, and growth that isn't done to impress, but because you truly want to live again. Inner peace is when you stop fighting ghosts. It's when you stop trying to control the narrative. It's when you stop rehearsing what you would say to them if you had the chance. It's when you can hear their name and no longer flinch. It's when you can breathe without that heavy knot in your chest reminding you of what they did. And here's the secret no one tells you. Peace is louder than any reaction. It speaks volumes in silence. It shakes foundations more than confrontation ever could. It turns the page without slamming the book. Because while they may expect bitterness, while they may anticipate anger, coldness, or revenge, they won't know what to do with your calm, your grace, your detachment, your refusal to let their absence define your joy. You don't owe them anything. Not a meltdown, not an explanation, not a show. What you owe yourself is freedom, and peace is the door to that freedom. You'll know you're healing, not when they come back begging, not when karma shows up at their doorstep, but when you no longer care if they ever do. That's power, that's liberation, that's peace. So to the one who was left behind, yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke something inside you. Yes, there were days you didn't know how you'd make it through, but look at you now, still standing, still breathing, still becoming. This heartbreak may have rewritten your plans, but it will never rewrite your worth. You are not defined by who walked away. You are defined by how you rise, how you choose to rebuild not from bitterness, but from bravery. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about him, it's about you, your growth, your strength, your healing, your story. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You don't even need closure. What you need is already within you, the courage to keep going, the grace to let go, and the power to begin again. So lift your head, not because it didn't hurt, but because you survived it, and now it's time to stop waiting to be chosen. And start choosing yourself, always, every time.